Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for listening to Mr. Laxton's video on these Algebra II 5.1 through 5.2 practice quiz. So here we go. Going through this first part is the first page is all about graphing here, some different things. So to look at this guy is in standard form. It asks me to find the vertex. So to do that, we have this fancy equation. X equals the opposite of b over 2a. So go through, I know that my a is 2, my b is -8, and my c is 3. So if I go through and plug this into this equation, I get my opposite of my b, which is going to be +8 over 2 times 2. So now I have 8 over 4, which is 2. So I know that my x value, my vertex, is 2. Now I got to find that y. So you ask yourself, hey, how do I find that y? Plug in 2 for all of your x's. So I go y equals 2 times 2 squared minus 8 times 2 plus 3. So if I look here, I got 2 times, or I have 2 squared is 4 times 2 is 8. Minus 16 plus 3. So I have 8 minus 16 is -8, plus 3 is going to be -5. So I know that my y value, my vertex, is -5. Awesome, so I get 2 -5 for that one. The next one, it asks me to actually graph this. So I look through here and I have to find that vertex again. So let's go through that same equation. I know that x equals the opposite of b over 2a. So now again, I have my a, b, and my c. Go through and plug this guy in. I get -8 over 2 times -2, which is actually going to come out to be that same x value of 2 for my vertex. So I know my vertex is 2 comma something, but I have to find out, hey, what something is that? So I plug this guy in again, so I get y equals -2 squared plus 8 times 2 minus 2. Go through and plug this 2 in to find out what my y is. So if I look here, -2 times 2 squared, I have to go 2 squared first, so this is -2 times 4 plus 16 minus 2. -2 times 4 is -8 plus 16 minus 2. So -8 plus 16 is 8 minus 2 is 6. So I get 2 comma 6 is my vertex for this guy. So let's go over and graph that. 2, 6 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 is all the way at the top here. And remember that, hey, that's my vertex. I know that I have this axis of symmetry that goes straight down through there. I know that my graph is exactly symmetric on the left and the right side. And I can tell here, since my a is negative, I know that this graph is going to open down somehow, but I just have to find out, hey, where does that graph actually go? So now here's where some students start to get confused. They say, hey, I found my vertex. Now you just have to find 2 points that are either to the left or to the right, and then you can graph the thing that's exactly symmetric. So if I look at this, I'm going to pick something like in the 1 and the 0 because I think those are going to be easier to plug in. So now if I look, f of 1 is going to be -2 times 1 squared plus 8 times 1 minus 2. So if I go through here, this is going to be 1, this is going to be -2 plus 8 minus 2, which is going to be 4. So -2 plus 8 is 6, minus 2 is 4. So this guy's going to be 1, 4, so that's over 1, up 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's my dot, and I know a point that's exactly symmetric is over there. Awesome, so now I keep going here. I have to plug in. Now I plugged in 1, so now I'm going to plug in 0. So f of 0 is always the easiest one to plug in. That's -2 times 0 squared plus 8 times 0 is equal to -2. Excuse me, not equal to, it -2. All right, so let's go back here. Wake up, computer. Still not waking up. There we go. All right, so now I have -2. There we go. All right, so now if I look here, these guys both turn into 0, so I get f of 0 is equal to -2. So now I plot that guy, I get 0, -2. One that's exactly symmetric is over there. Now I can connect that U here. All right, so good. So find that vertex, which is 2, 6, and then plug in some points that are either to the left or to the right. All right, so now let's keep going on. I have vertex form. This gets a little bit easier each part that we go through here. Remember, your vertex form, your vertex is your h and your k. Remember, your h is always the opposite of what it looks like. So my vertex here is -1, -2 for that one. Now, if I keep going on, number 4 asks me to graph this guy. So I have to find my vertex first. Again, my h and my k. I get -2, -3. So if I go -2, -3 is down right there. I'm going to look at this guy, and now I know that I have that axis of symmetry that comes right down through there. Now I have to find those 2 points that are either to the left or to the right again. So if I look at this, I like to plug in this number and this number because those are just to the right, which is going to be the smaller number. So I'm going to plug in -1. So I get f of -1 is equal to -1 plus 2 squared minus 3. So if I go through there and simplify this guy, -1 plus 2 is 1 squared minus 3. 1 squared is 1 minus 3 is -2. So now this point is going to be -1, -2. If I go -1, -2, that's right there. Point that's exactly symmetric right across, which is good. Keep going. Now I'm going to plug in that 0. See what I get out there. So I have f of 0 is equal to 0 plus 2 squared minus 3. 0 plus 2 is 2. Squared is 4 minus 3 is equal to 1. So that point is 0, 1. So I get 0, 1 is right there. A point that's exactly symmetric is over here. Go through, connect, make that U. That opens up because my A value right there is 1 is positive. All right, so again, there the vertex is a little bit easier to show up there. It's your H and your K. Then you pick those 2 points that are either to the right or to the left. All right, so it says here for number 5, it says name the ordered pairs that are the x-intercepts of the equation. So here, remember we have our P and our Q? And those are the opposite of what they look like. So my x coordinates for my ordered pairs here are 3, 0. And then this one is going to be -1, 0. Those are my x-intercepts. So here we go. X-intercepts, if I keep going on here, number 6, I have my P and my Q. They're the opposite of what they look like. So my x-intercepts are -3 and -1 here. Because they're the opposite of what they look like. So I go to -3, 1, 2, 3, and -1, which is right there. Those are my x-intercepts. And now I have to find out, hey, if that's where that line hits the x-intercepts, there's this vertical line that's directly in between those two, which my vertex lies on. So I look at this and say, hey, that value is over 1, 2. So I have -2 for my x vertex. So my vertex is going to be -2 something, but I have to find out what that is. So all I have to do here is plug that guy in. So let's look. I'm going to plug in -2. So I get y equals 2 times -2 plus 3. And -2 plus 1. Go through, plug this guy in. So -2 plus 3 is 1. -2 plus 1 is going to give me -1. So I look through here, 2 times 1 times -1 is going to be -2. So I know my vertex is going to be -2, -2. So -2, -2 is right here. Those are all your 3 points that you need. Go through, connect those guys, and graph. Awesome. So here we go. Going on to the back is where we switch gears into some factoring now. So factoring these guys. Number 7, your A value is equal to 1. So this is kind of the easier type there where you say, hey, I just plug these guys right into that diamond. Remember we talked about the C value goes on the top, B value goes on the bottom. So I get 18, -11. So 2 numbers that multiply to give me 18 and add to give me -11 are going to be -9 and -2. So what this turns into is x minus 9 and x minus 2. Done. Factor. That's all you need. Now going on to number 8, we look at this guy and say, hey, my A value is not 1. That's the harder process, so I got to multiply this guy. So I have x squared minus 4x minus 12. Now I can go through, put that guy in the diamond. So negative 12 and negative 4. Two things that multiply to negative 12 and add to negative 4 are negative 6 and 2. So this guy turns into x minus 6 and x plus 2. Again here, don't forget that, hey, your a value was at 3, so I have to divide by 3, divide by 3. So I get x minus 2. And then, hey, this 2/3 can't simplify, so that 3 comes out in front, so I get 3x plus 2. All right, so that's what you should get there for that one. Number 9, going on to another factoring one, and this one has the a value, again, is greater than 1. Got to multiply that guy. I get x squared plus 7x minus 30. That's a 30. I got to multiply two things to negative 30 and add to positive 7. So two things that multiply to negative 30 and add to positive 7 are 10 and negative 3. So I get x plus 10 and x minus 3. Going through here, do not forget to divide by that original a value, which is 5. So I get x plus 2 here. And then this guy, 3 over 5, can't simplify. That 5 comes out in front, 5x minus 3, which is good. Awesome. So those are the factoring ones. Now, moving on to 10 and, yes, 12. I skipped number 11. I don't know why. Moving on to 10 and 12, you have to solve these guys. So that means you have to get it equal to 0, then factor, and then set each of those equal to 0. So I got to minus this 1 to the other side. So now I get 2x squared minus x minus 1 is equal to 0 now. Go through and factor this guy. So now my a is greater than 1. So now I have x squared minus x minus 2 is equal to 0. Go through, put this guy in the diamond. I get negative 2 and negative 1. Two things that multiply to negative 2 and add to negative 1 are negative 2 and positive 1. So I get x minus 2 and x plus 1. Set those guys equal to 0 again. Don't forget to divide by 2 here. So now I have x minus 1 and I have 2x plus 1 equals 0. Last step, since it's set equal to 0, you have to make sure that, hey, you have to set each of these equal to 0. So I have x minus 1 is equal to 0 and 2x plus 1 is equal to 0. So if I go through and solve these guys straight down, I add 1 to both sides, so I get x equals 1 is one of my answers. And then I can go through, I can subtract that 1, so I get 2x is equal to negative 1. Divide by 2, I get x equals negative 1/2 is one of my answers as well. All right, going on to the very last one here. This one has it not equal to 0 again, so I got to subtract that 2x. Subtract the 2x, so I get x squared minus 2x minus 35 is equal to 0 now. So notice how I put that minus 2x in between the 35 and the x squared, so I get it back in a standard form. All right, so now this one's pretty easy because my a value is 1, so I go through, I can plug this guy right into that diamond. I get 35, negative 2. Two things that multiply to negative 35 and add to negative 2 are negative 7 and positive 5. So now I get x minus 7 and x plus 5 equal to 0. Now my last step here, I just got to set both those guys equal to 0. So I get x minus 7 is equal to 0 and x plus 5 is equal to 0. Solve these guys straight down. I got to add 7 to both sides. I got to subtract 5 to both sides. So I get x equals 7 and I get x equals negative 5. So those are my zeros. Using that zero product property. So factor them there and then set each factor equal to 0. Awesome. So thank you for listening again to my practice quiz here. If you still have any questions, please come find me.